There's something deeply unsettling about forests, not parks, not hiking trails filled with families and laughter. I'm talking about real woods, the kind that stretch for miles without cell signal, without light, without witnesses, places where sound travels strangely, where shadows move even when the wind stops, and where people disappear without explanation. Most of us like to believe monsters don't exist, but thousands of missing person cases across North America share one terrifying detail. They vanished near forests. Tonight, I'm going to tell you 3 deeply disturbing stories, experiences shared by people who entered the woods expecting peace and left with something following them home. These are not legends. These are encounters people still refuse to fully talk about. So before we begin, turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and remember, sometimes the woods aren't empty. Story 1, the Fire Lookout Tower. In the summer of 2018, a man named Daniel accepted what sounded like the perfect temporary job. He was hired as a seasonal fire lookout deep within a national forest in northern Montana. The position required him to live alone for 3 months in an isolated fire lookout tower, nearly 40 feet above ground, monitoring smoke activity and reporting potential wildfires. No neighbors, no traffic, no civilization for nearly 30 miles. Daniel actually wanted the isolation. He had just gone through a breakup and thought silence would help clear his mind. During the first week, everything felt peaceful. The forest stretched endlessly beneath him, waves of green trees moving with the wind. Nights were quiet except for insects and distant animal calls. But around day 9, things started changing. It began with sounds. Every night at exactly 2:17 a.m., Daniel would wake up. At first, he assumed it was coincidence, until he realized what kept waking him. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps circling the base of the tower. Crunch, pause, crunch, pause. The ladder leading up to the lookout was retractable and pulled up every night for safety against wildlife. Daniel convinced himself it was probably a bear. Still, something felt wrong. Animals didn't move like that. The steps sounded careful, intentional. On the 12th night, curiosity won. He grabbed a flashlight and leaned over the railing. The beam cut through darkness. Nothing. Just trees. But then he noticed something that froze him in place. The movement stopped the exact moment his light turned, on red as if whatever was down there knew he was looking. The next morning, Daniel climbed down to inspect the ground. He expected paw prints. Instead, he found barefoot human footprints. Large ones. Too large to be his, and they circled the tower dozens of times. After reporting it through radio, Forest Services assumed it was a lost hiker, but no missing persons were reported. That night, the footsteps returned. Only this time they didn't circle. They stopped directly beneath the ladder. Then came 3 loud metallic knocks against the tower supports. Bang. 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 Daniel stayed frozen inside. Minutes passes. Then slowly, he heard climbing. Metal lightly rattling. Someone, or something, was testing the ladder that wasn't even lowered. He rushed to the edge. The darkness below felt thicker than usual. And then, his flashlight revealed a face looking straight up at him. Too pale, too still, smiling. Daniel said the expression didn't change, even after the light hit its eyes. The figure slowly stepped backward into the trees. Without breaking eye contact, Daniel quit the next morning. Forest officials later checked the area. No footprints remained. And according to records, that section of forest had been closed decades. Earlier, after multiple disappearances involving hikers who reported being watched at night. Story 2, the campsite that wasn't there. In October 2020, 2 college friends, Marcus and Tyler, went camping in the deep woods of Oregon. They deliberately chose an off-map location recommended in an online hiking forum. The instructions were strange but specific. Follow the dry riverbed until you hear running water again. After hiking nearly 6 hours, they found the spot. A perfect clearing surrounded by towering trees. Oddly, there was already a fire pit there, and stacked stones forming what looked like seating. They assumed previous campers built it. As night fell, the forest became unnaturally quiet. No insects, no owls, nothing. Around midnight, Tyler noticed light flickering through trees about 200 yards away. Another campfire. Relieved they weren't alone, Marcus shouted a greeting. No response. Just movement near the fire, a silhouette standing beside it. They assumed whoever it was didn't want interaction, so they ignored it. But the figure never sat down, never moved away. It just stood there, watching. Hours passed. The fire across the woods never burned out. Around 3 a.m., Marcus woke to whispering, not outside, right next to their tent. Multiple voices speaking too quietly to understand. Tyler was already awake, staring toward the tent wall. Shadows moved outside. Slow pacing, then came a voice clearly saying, "They're awake." The footsteps immediately stopped. Marcus unzipped the tent and shined his flashlight. Nothing. The second campsite fire was gone too. Completely. Morning finally came. Relieved, they packed quickly and left. But something bothered Tyler. When they checked their GPS route, there was no recorded clearing. According to mapping data, they had camped in dense forest, not an open area. Weeks later, Marcus returned with other hikers to find the location. They never found the clearing again, and forest rangers later told them something disturbing. That region had reports dating back decades of travelers, discovering campsites that appeared overnight and vanished later. Locals called them borrowed ground, places that didn't belong to the living. Story 3, the thing that followed us out. In 2016, a search and rescue volunteer named Hannah joined a mission in rural Appalachia. A 9-year-old boy had gone missing during a family hike. Search teams spread across miles of mountainous forest. By evening, Hannah's group pushed deeper than planned. Radio signals weakened. Fog rolled between trees. That's when they heard it. A child crying. Faint, somewhere downhill. Relieved, the team followed the sound. But something felt off immediately. The crying never changed distance. No matter how far they walked, it stayed equally far away. One rescuer suggested turning back. Then the crying stopped instantly. Silence swallowed the forest. Moments later, the same crying came from behind them. Closer, much closer. Hannah described the sound as wrong, like someone imitating a child rather than actually being one. Branches snapped nearby. Something moved parallel to them through trees. Too large for a person moving that fast. They radioed base. Static answered. Then one team member froze and pointed ahead. Standing between trees was a small figure, child-sized, facing away. Relief flooded the group, until it turned around. Hannah said its proportions were incorrect. Arms too long, head tilted unnaturally, and its face didn't look human. The figure opened its mouth wider than possible, releasing the same crying sound. The team ran. No coordination, no strategy, just instinct. They didn't stop until reaching vehicles hours later. The missing boy was discovered 2 days afterward, miles away in the opposite direction, alive. When asked how he survived alone overnight, he told rescuers, "A lady told me not to follow the crying voice in the woods." Hannah resigned from search and rescue shortly after. She refuses to enter forests, at night ever. Again, forests cover nearly 1/3 of the Earth's land. Millions of acres humans rarely enter. Places older than cities, older than recorded history, and maybe places that were never meant for us at all. So next time you hike deeper than the trail, next time the woods suddenly go silent, or you hear footsteps when you know you're alone, don't investigate. Don't call out. And whatever you do, if something in the forest calls your name, make sure it actually sounds human. Because sometimes, the woods listen first. If you enjoyed tonight's stories, leave a like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, would you ever spend a night alone in deep woods? Sleep carefully. I'll see you in the next story.